Yeah, we're live now.
Okay, can you share the link to the group chat?
Okay.
Let me just
Sorry, how the link to this particular streaming, right? Okay.
yeah.
Let me see if I can get that. I'm coming. Sorry. Okay, I actually thought I thought it would be the same link, but
Okay, don't worry, let me share it. Let me share it. I've gotten the link.
I thought it would be the same link, but okay. I think we're lagging. No.
Yeah, I just shared the link to the group chat now. We should have others joining in shortly.
All right. Thanks. Welcome, guys. Good evening. Hello. Good evening. Welcome. Apologies for starting late. Alright, please, if you can hear me, can you put in the chat? I want to be sure that I'm being heard. Good evening, everything. Please, if you can hear me, I want to be sure that I'm being heard.
Okay, guys, good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, guys. Yeah, if you can hear me, can you just type in the chat? I can hear you.
Okay, guys. Yeah, if you can hear me, can you just type in the chat? I can hear you.
If you can hear me, can you just type in the chat? I can hear you.
If you can hear me, can you just type in the chat? I can hear you. If you can hear me, can you just type in the chat? I can hear you. If you can hear me, can you
Okay, guys, keep the comments coming in. I can see John says he can hear me. Oyekachi says he can hear me.
coming in? I can see John says he can hear me. Maybe he says he can hear me.
Okay, I just saw John says my voice is reverberating.
Okay, I just saw John says my voice is reverberating. Okay, I just saw John says my voice is reverberating. Yeah,
Okay, guys, is my voice clearer now? If my voice is clearer now, can you just type in the chat? I can hear you clearer now. If my voice is clearer now, can you just let me know in the chat? Okay, I can see you guys can hear me clearer now, right? So we'll be getting started shortly. We've spent a whole lot of time setting things up. Uh,
right. So we'll be getting started
and we are
shortly.
so sorry for the delay. Okay, can you guys see my screen? I want to know if you guys can see my screen clearly. If you can see my screen, can you just let me know in the chat?
Okay.
Okay, yeah, Emanuela, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. I think it's better now.
Okay, yeah, and you can also see my screen, right?
Yeah, I can
I can hear you.
I can see it.
I think it's better now. Okay, yeah. You can also see my screen, right? Yeah, I can hear you. I think it's better now.
All right, guys. Good evening and welcome to the session. We really apologize for the delays and there was a lot of network issues.
So the session,
But we'll be starting now. We'll be starting immediately. This is 8:50, so we'll be getting started. Please
we'll be starting now.
ensure to share the link so that other people can join us immediately so that we start.
Please, we'll be starting now. Starting.
Okay, yeah. Good evening, everyone, once again. So today we'll be continuing from the session we had last week on Git and GitHub.
Today we
And
continue
before we
session
proceed, I do not want us going back and
and
forth because of time. So I just want to be sure that everyone can hear me and see my screen. So if you can hear me and see my screen, can you just let me know in the chat that you can both hear me and see my screen? Can I please just know if you can hear me and see my screen so we can proceed?
hear me and see my screen. And I please just know if you can hear me and see my screen so we can proceed. Hear me and see my screen. And I please just know if you can hear me and see my screen so we can proceed. Hear me and
Okay, I can see John says my voice is repeating. I guess it has to do with bad network. I oh okay guys. So I've gotten to confirmations that you can both hear me and see my screen. So at this point, let's proceed. So, like I said earlier, we'll be going over Git and GitHub from the point which we left out last week. Although we left out at staging and committing, but would be get going back to initializing a local Git repository. For those who probably were not able to join us in the last session, at least you can actually get a grasp of everything we'll be doing today. So we'll be starting once again from initializing a local Git repository. So to recap back to what we did last week. So we did an introduction to Git and GitHub. So simply defined, we said that Git and GitHub are both similar in name, but they are two different things, right? We said Git is an open source version control tool which was created in 2005 by the same developers who are working on the Linux operating system. Meanwhile, GitHub is a company that was founded in 2008 that makes tools which integrate with Git. So we also gave an important note to differentiate GitHub and Git. And we said that you do not need GitHub to use Git, but you cannot use GitHub without Git. So I think so last week also we went through some basic CLI commands which we won't be going through this week again because of time. So now we'll be diving straight into initializing a local Git repository and getting started with our journey on mastering Git and GitHub. So initializing a local Git repository is something we are going to be doing from our Git bash terminal. So if you have your laptop with you and you have Git and GitHub set up, I think it would be easier and it would be a better learning process if you could actually follow up what we are doing and maybe practice as we are practicing. But if you are not with your device here, it's also fine. You could come back to the tutorials later, even after we are done. So we said to get started with using Git, you don't necessarily need to be a very badass developer. You don't need to be a professional and experienced developer. So to initialize and start using Git right from our terminal, we need to use the command git init. Um, just to be sure that I'm not talking to myself, can I get some confirmation once again that you can hear me in the chat, in the live chat? Can you just type I can hear you if you can still hear me? Okay, guys, if you can still hear me, can you just let me know in the chat that you can still hear me? So as we proceed, we do not have to come back to the things we've already talked about. So just let me know in the chat you can hear me. Okay, I've gotten confirmations that you can hear me. Okay, that's fine. So let's get on to using Git. Okay, so let me just increase the font size of my terminal. Although I usually like the smaller font sizes, which is actually very weird. But yeah, let me just increase the size. Okay, yeah, so I think this font size should be a better one now. Hope you guys can see this right. Can I just get a confirmation you can see this? Okay, let me do a little more increase. Okay. Let's keep it at 20. Okay, yeah, I think this is better now. This is better now. So basically to start using Git, like we said, firstly you need to initialize an empty Git repository. You need to initialize Git in your working directory in your folder. So firstly we are going to switch over to a folder I created for the purpose of this tutorial. So we are going to switch on to build Git. And after switching onto build Git, we are going to say Git init. And once you do this, you are going to see initialized empty Git repository in this folder. So this basically is telling us that our Git repository has actually been initialized and we can actually start using Git in our working directory. So going back to our slide, the next thing we need to look into is staging and commits. We're going to be looking into staging and commits. So last week we talked about staging and commits, but for the purpose of persons just joining us today, we are still going to be looking at staging and commits once again. So staging is a step before the commit process in Git. So according to what was written here, we said adding a file to the staging area just simply means letting Git know or track that those files are ready for commit. So basically, I explained last week that how these things work are when we talk about staging in Git, especially, let's say you are working on a particular folder, you're working on a project, and in maybe you've completed some files, maybe let's say the index.html. You've completed the codes in the index.html and you want to commit that to your Git branch, but probably you've not yet completed the maybe the style.css or something. You need to for Git to commit the file, you need to tell Git, okay, this and this are the files you need to commit. So to do this, we use the git add command. So you could see here, you say git add, then you specify the file name. And to see files that Git is tracking, you can simply use Git status. So currently, if we check our current repository using the ls command, we can see the repository is currently empty. The repository is currently empty, and to get started, let's just create some files in the repository. So let's say touch. I hope we haven't forgotten our commands from last week. So let's say touch index.html. And let's create style.css too, the style.css file. And lastly, let's create a readme file. So let's clear our terminal once again. So if you check now, we have three files: the index.html, the readme.md, and the style.css file. So the next thing we are going to be doing now is, let's first of all do git status to check the status of the files that git is tracking. So you can see that the readme.md file, the index.html file, and the style.css file are not currently being tracked by Git. So when I talk about tracking, I'm talking about like, as in a file that is being tracked by Git. Git knows that, okay, when you want to commit, these are the files. Those files tracked by Git are the files Git will commit. But without adding these files now to the staging area, Git won't know to commit those files. So basically, to add these three files to the staging area, although the files are empty, so let's add something to the index.html file. So let's go to the index.html, and let's just add something there. So yeah, so let's just leave it. Okay, let's change this to BUD Git tutorial, and let's save this up. So saving this, let's go to okay. So going back to our terminal, now we have the, if we check, okay, we've checked Git status. We have readme.md file, the index.html, and the style.css, and these files are not currently being tracked by Git. So we would want to add these files to our staging area, and to do that, we would use the git add index.html command. Once we do this, the index.html file has been added to the staging area. So if we clear our terminal, let's clear our terminal now and do git status again. We can see that the index.html file now shines green. So shining green, it just simply means that it has been added to the staging area. You can see Git says you can use the git remove caked command to unstage the file. So currently index.html file is currently in the staging area, but we have the readme.md file and the style.css file not yet in the staging area. We'll add that later. Now I want to prove a point, the commit point. So now let's look at now. Remember, I added some stuff to the index.html. So let's assume that, okay, that's our complete project. We've completed the index.html and we want to actually commit that to our Git. So let's go back to our slides. So now let's look at commits. So commits basically are snapshots or milestones of your project, which are along the timeline of Git. So this looks like big languages, but basically what commits does is, commits are different snapshots. Okay, different, should I say, different stages of your project that are along the timeline of Git that Git tracks. So with commit, Git can actually help you go forward in your production timeline or move backward in your production timeline, in as much as you know as in the details of the commit. So Git commits they are basically the building blocks of a version control system. So do not forget, we define Git as a version control system. That's Git enables you like control the movement of your product from, it just helps you manage as in your project development. So to commit a file, you need to use the git commit command. So you say git commit, then -m your message. So the -m signifies the message you are going to be adding to Git. Then inside the hyphen, inside the quotation marks, you need to put in the message you want to you want to save that commit as. So basically, what the message helps you does is it can help you or developers understand the timeline of your project development. So let's say after I add the index.html file, I can say git commit message completed the index.html file. So a developer going through my git commit timeline can basically understand the processes my products pass through. So the message essentially helps both you and other developers understand what that particular commit is all about. So to see all your commits, use the command git log. So now let's commit our index.html file. Currently, it is the only file that is being tracked by Git. It's the only file that has been added to the staging area. So now if you do git commit, you add a message, you say let's say index.html file completed. Now let's commit this. So you can see this particular index.html file has been committed. So let's clear our terminal once again. And I also said okay, if we check our git status, let's check our git status. So you can see there's no longer file in the staging area. So the staging area, like we earlier said, is like a preparation stage for like the git commit. So it prepares your files to be committed to Git. Now we still have the readme.md and the style.css file, which was not committed because it was not being tracked by Git. It was not added to the staging area. So to check our recent commits, we can do git log. Once we do git, we can see that we made a commit recently to the master branch, and you can see the hash of the commit. You can see the author of the commit, and you can see the date and the time of the commit, and then you see the commit message. So now you understand why it is actually necessary you add messages to your commits, because just imagine there was no message and you just keep seeing the commit hash, just the author and the date. It can actually get confusing. You won't be able to like understand, okay, what was this particular commit about, what was this other commit about. So the commit message enables you and other developers understand understand the purpose of that particular commit. So okay, so the next thing we'll be looking at basically is branching, Git branches. So I don't know if we particularly understand what we've said so far. In case you have any question, you could actually make use of the live chat comment. You could actually make use of the chat box to actually ask your questions. If you do not understand anything, please can you just ask your questions in the chat box?
All right, guys. If there are any confusions, please drop your questions in the chat box before we carry on.
Okay, I can't see any questions. So
Yeah, I think we can carry on. I don't think there are any questions.
so let's move on. So the
Yeah.
next thing we'd actually be discussing is Git branches. So basically a branch is a version in a Git repository that diverges from the main working repository. So I'll be moving at a faster speed than we did last week because majority of these stuffs was explained in details last week. So if after the session you particularly did not understand anything, you could go through the slides again, or reference back to the previous video, the previous session from last week Monday. So we'll be looking at the branches next. So what is a branch basically? So I said a branch is like a version of a Git repository that diverges from the main working repository. So like I said last week, Git branches is like basically a fail-safe way developers use to like implement new features to their product or project. So let's say I was working on my project and I've actually advanced it to a certain level, and I want to implement this new feature, but I'm not particularly sure if whether I implement this feature, my whole product will just break down. Like basically, if you've been into the whole development thing, you'd know that there are times at times when you'll be building your stuff and basically you just add a new feature, and any feature will introduce one certain bug that will just scatter your head. That in the process of trying to just resolve that single bug, could take you a long while. So Git branches help you, like, okay, the way it works now, like I said, it just creates a copy of that your current branch and moves it to a new branch so that you can continue development from there. So now any new feature you are adding to your project, to that particular new branch you just created, will not reflect in the old branch. I will say this again. When developing with Git, branches help you to like maintain your project in a way that adding new features to your project does not break, as in the development flow. So let's say I was working on a project and I wanted to add a new feature, but I'm not sure whether that feature will implement well with my other features, or it will introduce a bug that would take me a whole lot of time to solve. What I can actually do is I can move my current project onto a new branch. And once I do that, I would have a copy of my former branch and its project on a new branch. But I won't any change I make to that new branch will not be affecting the old branch. So last week Kevin said you should think about it like a tree. So basically you have a tree growing and it diverges from the main source, the main root. So it goes up and it goes out and it goes out. So it also has the link to the main root. It continues from, as in it has everything the as in the main root had. But now the new features you add to that new branch will not in any way affect that main root. So that's how Git branches work in a very layman term. So just like I said, say you want to make a new feature, but you are worried that these changes might break your code. Git branch is the tool you need to save the day. So branches allow you to move back and forth between different stages of a project. It's very safe. And to create and move to a new branch, use the command git checkout b branch name. So let's do that. Let's do that. So currently, you can see the current branch I am in this place here. You can see the branch. The current branch I mean it's the master branch. So this is the master branch. Now I want to move from the master branch to, let's call this the tutorial branch, to add new features to my project. I can simply do git git checkout b tutorial branch. And once I press enter, you can see it switched me, created a new branch one, then it switched me to that new branch. So I want you to note that the hyphen B that was in the command I just created now was the command that created the new branch. So let's say I want to switch back to the master branch without actually creating a new branch. I do not want to create, I have an existing branch already called master. I want to switch back to the master branch. I would simply, okay, let's clear our terminal first. I don't particularly like my terminals being clunky. So to switch to a new branch, I'll do git checkout. Sorry, not to a new branch, to the master branch. Git checkout master. And once I click enter, you will see I've been switched to the branch master. Now I did not create another new branch called master, and that was why I did not need to create a new branch. That was why I did not use the hyphen b in my command. So to check our to list out all our branches, all the current branches in our working directory, I'm going to use the git branch command. So once you do git branch and you press enter, you can see the all the branches I have in my current working directory. You have the master branch, you have the tutorial branch, and the one with the asterisks. Yo. The one with the asterisks, the one with the asterisks is the branch I am currently on. That's what the asterisks mean. The branch just represents the branch I'm currently on. So basically, that's how to create a new branch and to move between branches. So because of I would have loved to like show us how exactly branches help your development work. But because of time, we won't be doing that because I really want us to cover everything we have in our as in our scheme. I want us to cover everything we have in our scheme today before we round off with the session. So let's check out the next thing we have in our slide. So okay, it says if you are comfortable with the changes, you would want to merge the changes, right? You want to okay, let's say I added the new feature and it turns out it was not a buggy feature and I want to add this new feature to my main branch. So bear in mind, my main branch currently is the master branch. So I've actually switched out. I switched out to the tutorial branch and I implemented some new features. And it turns out the features, everything works well. And I want to merge everything back to the main branch. To do that, I'll use the git merge. Now, one thing I want you to note in merging branches is that you make sure you are carrying out the merge command from the branch you want to merge into. I will say this again. When you want to merge branches, you do not merge from the tutorial branch. Master is my main branch. And I just carried out some changes. I just added some new features in tutorial branch. Now I want to merge those new features back to my master branch. I would have to switch if I was in, okay, let's check out the tutorial branch. So let's say I was on the tutorial branch and I want to merge the changes I implemented on the tutorial branch to the master branch. I will not write the merge command from the tutorial branch because the tutorial branch is not the branch I want to merge into. So what I need to do is I need to check out my main branch first. So I need to check out to my main branch, which is the master branch. And after checking out, I can now write the git merge command and specify the branch I want to merge to the master branch, which is the tutorial branch. And once I click enter, it says already up to date because we did not particularly make any new change to the tutorial branch. But basically, if there was any changes, it will be merged into the master branch. So that's how the merge command works. Like I said, if you are confused about anything, even as we proceed, you could still ask your questions in the chat. I have my eyes on the chat, so if you have any questions, you could just ask on the chat, and I'll pause to reply your questions. Okay, meanwhile, let's keep moving. So over to the next thing. Pushing to a GitHub repository. So to push your codes to GitHub, you need to first create a GitHub repository. It's very necessary because you are going to you want to move your codes to GitHub. Like we said, the reason why GitHub is important and the reason why we use GitHub mostly is you use GitHub to like showcase your project, your codes to the world. So most of the things we do in Git are done locally in our system. So let's say I lose my system today, I've probably lost everything I. But if I want to like, okay, let's say put out my project there, store my project on a server, or like put it out in a way that others can actually have access to those codes, I would have to do that using GitHub. So basically, that's one of the main importances why we use GitHub. So let's say I'm done with everything I want to do on my Git, as in I want to do locally on Git, and I want to now move my projects to my GitHub repository. So we are going to be navigating through GitHub and we are going to be explaining. So some persons complained in the I think in the afternoon, earlier in the day, about not understanding the GitHub interface and how confusing the GitHub interface was. So we are going to be going through the GitHub interface and possibly use the little time we have to actually explain in details how GitHub works. So firstly, we need to go back to our terminal, our browser, and let's go to github.com. Okay, so currently I have my GitHub account logged in already. So and I want to assume that most of us already we have um
Darlington, are you there?
we've already created our GitHub account, because
Okay.
even we had already been to your GitHub account, get your GitHub account ready, GitHub account yet. Hello, can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. I think
Yeah, you
it
can hear
got
me now, right?
yeah, I can. I can.
Okay,
Guys, please,
I'm
if you
very
can
sorry
still
about.
hear us, please put that in the comment section. I need to be sure that you can hear us. If you can hear Darlington and I, please react with some emojis in the comment section. Let's be sure that we're still together.
Okay, guys, yeah, okay. If you can hear us, can you just let us know?
Okay, that's wonderful. I can see the responses coming in. Okay, Jerry says he can't hear us. Um
Okay, yeah, Jerry, can you hear me now? Yeah, Jerry, can you hear me now? Okay, guys, I really need to confirm that you can hear me. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. So let's proceed. Okay, guys, let me just arrange some stuff. Please give me a minute.
All right,
Okay,
guys.
yeah. So
While we wait for Darlington, okay, are you back?
yeah, I'm back.
All right, all
So
right, all right. Let's proceed.
yeah, like I said earlier, I want to assume that most of us have gotten our GitHub account created, and because I want to go over explaining the interface. So if you've got your GitHub account created and possibly logged in, you could actually go to your profile, your GitHub profile, because that's basically where we are going to be carrying out most of our stuffs from. So this is how the GitHub interface looks like majorly. So majority of what we are going to be doing is going to be happening from this interface, from this place. So um we have four major stuffs here. We have overview. So your overview is like the place that explains, just gives a short overview of your whole GitHub profile. So you could see your picture here, you could see your name, your username, your short description, a button to edit your profile. So here you could see, you could actually add the organization you work with. You could add the organization you work with here, your email, your website, and your Twitter account. You could also add your Facebook account or any other social media account you have. So this readme you see here, hi there, the stuff you just see here was created manually by me. So you could actually do stuffs like this by actually creating a repository that has the same name as your username. So if you want to do something like this, because I know I noticed some persons asked me question on how you could actually create a specialized readme that looks like this. You could actually do this by creating a repository that has the same username with your username, as you can see, and edit the readme.md and put in whatever you like. So that's just it. So down here you have the pinned, what we call the pinned repositories. So basically what GitHub expects you to do on this is like, here you can put in your best, let's say your best works. So your best repositories, you can put in your best repositories here. So then scrolling down, you can see your contribution charts. This might not appear for everyone. It just depends on your GitHub settings, though. So you can see your contribution chart down here. You can also still see other organizations you work with and your country, just details about your contribution and your contribution activity. So basically, probably I'm mentioning repository, and you don't particularly understand what repositories are or how they work. So let's go through a repository and see how it is. Okay, let's look at this mix of repository. So over here I was building a zero knowledge private mixer. So here's a short, so this is how a repository looks like. So this is the repository for this is the repository where I host all the codes related to Mixup. So Mixup is just the final project I was handling recently for my ZKU course. So over here we have the about of the repository. So the about describes everything about the repository. So you could see Mixup is a decentralized non-custodial privacy solution built on Harmony and other stuffs. So this describes the repository. Over here you have a link to the working app. Then you have some tags for anybody who's going to be searching for similar projects, anybody searching for stuffs about zero knowledge proofs or a mixer or Ethereum. The repositories should probably pop up on GitHub. Then down here we have what we call a readme. So this is what I call a readme file. So over at the ending, oh okay, at the assignment, I gave an assignment and I talked about how to write a good readme, I there was a link in the slides that to take you to a free code camp blog that explains in details how you could write a good readme. So if you need to take a look at a good readme, this is an example of a good readme. So basically, the primary characteristics of a good readme is that once you get to it, going through it, you can basically understand the details of the project, both from the developer perspective and the user's perspective. So going through this, you could basically understand how mixup works, what exactly is mixup, and there are also instructions for developers who want to like clone this repository probably to their local Git and maybe contribute to it or improve it further, run it or stuff. There are instructions that you could actually go through to achieve that. Then this is basically how a repository works. So over here you have the folders, the readme.md, the header. These are the folders related to this particular project. If you look into it, you see all the folders and the files related to this particular project. Now going back to the repository, over here, you see the number of branches we have in this particular repository. So mostly why you're seeing one single branch here is that I mostly delete other branches once I've achieved what I want to achieve. Once I add a new feature and I merge to my master branch, I delete my other branches. So basically I have just a single branch here, but there are some other repositories where you see two branches. So over here you can see that I have one branch. Then to the commits, you can see here that I've made 18 commits to this repository. So let's go through the commits. Now over here you see the commit messages. So you see delete UI slash pages slash utils directory. You see update index.js. These are all the stuffs I committed since I started working on this project. So those are commits. So we'll be going through over some other details such as how to fork it. You could actually I'll be explaining what it means to fork a project later. But how to do it, we use this is the fork command for forking a project. I'll be explaining what it means to fork a project and that stuff. This is the start command. Basically, use this when you want to, let's say you want to start this repository and access it later. You could just simply click on the start button and GitHub will start. It's like saving to, let's say, saving to your watch list, like those as in for those who shop a lot, use Jumia, AliExpress and the rest. So starting your repository on GitHub is like adding that particular starting the repository on GitHub is like adding that particular repository to your wish list. So that's just how it is. So that's just so over here you can see the link you can actually use. So let's say I want to clone this project locally. Here's the link I can actually use to access this project locally from my terminal. I can decide to open it with GitHub Desktop, which is just a user interface similar to Git Bash. Instead of doing things from the terminal, probably Kevin asked you guys that was on Monday the difference between a graphic user interface and a command line. So GitHub Desktop is GitHub's graphic user interface. So let's say you want to carry out all those commands from a graphic user interface. That's what you can use GitHub Desktop for. So basically, all these are all the I think most of all these self explanatory. Most of all these stuffs at the top is just to settings as regards to your repositories, insights, securities, wiki. So pull requests, another thing we'll be looking at. Pull requests and issues. Pull requests and issues, another thing we'll be looking at as we go forward. So basically, this is just a simple walkthrough to through a simple walkthrough through GitHub repositories. This is a simple walkthrough through GitHub repositories. And yeah, so that's just basically how it works. So for those who want to create something like this, for people who asked me how you could create stuffs like this, you could just visit my profile and you can fork this readme.md and edit it for your own project. You could just fork it and edit it. If you need something similar to this. And yeah, don't forget to actually click the follow button if you actually get my profile. So now let's get started. Let's get started with um pushing our codes to GitHub. So firstly, we said you need to first of all create a GitHub repository. You need to first of all create a GitHub repository. So to do that, you can see the new instruction here. So we're going to click on new, and once we click on new, we will come back to we will come here which says create a new repository. So firstly, the first thing we need to do is impute the repository name. So the repository name we're going to be using is bud. Okay, let's use bud git, which is what we've been working with locally, and our description is going to be bud git tutorial, and we are going to make this repository public. So public or private are different commands you could actually use to choose if you want to make your repository public. Public means that anyone on the internet can see this repository. Private means only you can see it and you can choose others to see this repository. So let's add a readme file, and let's create this repository. Okay, so this is I just created a new repository now called buildgit. This is the new repository I just created, and this is what we are going to be working with. So there are some commands here for those using Git for the first time. You need to generate an SSH key and add this SSH key to your GitHub repository. So basically, the SSH key is like your authentication key you can actually use to connect you to your GitHub repository from your terminal. So without doing this, you would not actually be able to access Git effectively. So I've already done this already. So I've done this already. So I won't be doing it again. But in case you want to do this, you could actually do it. Follow the instruction on the slides. I dropped the slides on the group last week, so you could actually follow the instruction on the slides to do this. And so this point that says copy the key and add it to your settings, let me just show you where you can do that. Let me show you where you can do that. So if you go to the settings of your repo, okay, sorry, not the settings of your repo. Let's come. Okay, let's come here. Go to the settings of your profile, actually, not of your repo. Then you see the SSH and GPG keys. So once you click on SSH and GPG keys, the SSH key that was added to your you just click on new SSH key, and that SSH key that was generated for you on the terminal, just copy it and paste here, then add a new title for it, and boom, you'll be done. So it's actually very easy. You could just follow the instructions. Um, Follow the instructions in the slides to do that. So moving over to the next thing, as we're almost running out of time. So the next thing we want to do is push into GitHub now. So we've created a new repository, right? So we've added readme and stuffs, and we've done all this stuff, all these instructions. So the next thing we need to do is to push to our GitHub from our terminal. So to do this, the first thing we need to do copy the link. Make sure you copy the SSH on, not the HTTPS. Copy the SSH on, because we're using an SSH key. Although you can actually still use the HTTPS, but the SSH link is usually better and more advisable to use. So going back to our terminal, the first command we need to do, I don't know if I put this in lag. Okay, yeah, git remote add origin, your git repo link. So we are going to say git remote add origin. Then we are going to paste in our GitHub link, our GitHub SSH link. We got this from our GitHub repo, our GitHub profile. So what this actually does is this actually links your local Git repository, to your GitHub repository, it specifies the particular repository that you are going to be pushing to from this local repository. So once we click enter, this is added to our building Git repository. So the next thing we need to do now is to push, and we can do this using the git push u origin, and we're going to specify master as the branch we are pushing to. So once we click enter, we should see our stuffs moving to GitHub. This should take a little time, and okay, it says there are some errors here. So it says there are some files. Okay, yeah, so this failed because we have this already, the readme.md file already on our Git repository. So in case you actually have that error, it means that you already have a file on your readme on your Git repository that is not in your local Git. So basically, what Git expects you to do is to pull the file before you push. But because of time, we're not going to be pulling. So you already have a readme.md. We are just going to add. We're going to okay. Let's say Git. We're going to say Git push you origin master. Then we are going to add this tag. We're going to add the force tag. What do you? Sorry. Before we do this, let's just clear this first. This is looking very clunky. So we're going to say Git push you origin master, and we're going to add the first tag. So what this first tag does is you're actually telling it that okay, I know I have some files there, but overwrite everything you have there with what I have currently. So once you do this, you can see that it was pushed successfully. So now let's go check our GitHub repository to see if it's entered. So once we reload this page, we should see our index.html file here. So you can see we pushed only our index.html file because it was the only file that we committed. I don't know if you get. So Git pushed your most recent commit, and that was the index.html file. So that was pushed to our GitHub repository. So that's simply how pushing to GitHub works. So we have just about 17 minutes. Hello, Emanuela, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
So
I'm following
I just
through.
wanted to confirm that I'm not speaking to myself. Yeah. So
Sure. But let's also confirm that they can hear us. Okay. Abdullahi. The session is being recorded, so the link will be shared after this, and you can always come back to YouTube to view it. So, guys, please, if you've been following up so far, please, could you put in the chat? Could you put an emoji reaction in the chat? So let's be sure that you've been following us, and if you can also hear clearly, and also if you can see the screen. I just need to confirm that everyone is following up to this point. Can I get some reactions in the chat? Guys, can you hear me?
okay, yeah. So I see Raphael can hear me. Raphael is actually following us. So okay, yeah. So we could actually proceed, right?
Yeah. Okay, let's carry on. That's great. Let's carry on.
Okay. So moving over to the next thing we have in our slide, we are going to be talking about forking and cloning next. So this is actually very important. So forking and cloning is actually a very important GitHub operation, especially if you are going to be contributing to open source, which is actually necessary. We do as in every developer does, especially when starting out newly in your career, because helps engaging with other communities actually help broadens your knowledge, and not only helps broaden your knowledge, but it also can help you land jobs faster, land gigs faster when you contribute to open source. So forking is a GitHub operation that's usually used to clone a repository and its content to your own GitHub account. And we are going to be doing everything practically. So this operation is usually used when you want to make an update to an existing repo. Example, when you want to contribute to open source. So let's take a look at how to fork a repository from okay, the repository we are going to be forking is the BlockchainUNN repository. So okay, let me visit the blockchain. Let's visit this. So this is the repository we are going to be forking. So to fork a repository, the first thing you need to do is you need to click on this fork button. Once you click on fork, you would see this create a new fork. So normally has same name as the repository you're forking, and we want it to be like that. We're going to leave it like that, the same description, and we're going to click on create fork. So once you click on create fork, you can see I've actually created a fork of the BUD Git tutorial on blockchain UNN's official repository. And I also want to emphasize that if you've been following up to this point and you've not followed the official account of blockchain UNN, please do that now. Visit github.com/blockchainUNN and click on the follow button. It won't take you more than a minute to do that. So visit github.com/blockchainUNN and follow that repository. Okay, so we've basically created a fork of the BUD Git tutorial, and we want to contribute to this repository. So I want to give you an example of a scenario where you are contributing to open source and how you can do that. So I just cloned the BUD Git tutorial and I want to make updates to this particular repo. I want to make updates to this particular repo. Now over to the next thing we are going to be doing. We are going to be cloning the the forked repo now to our local machine. So cloning is a Git operation that used to clone a repository and its contents to your local machine. So the major difference between forking and cloning, they are both similar, but while forking is actually done on your GitHub account, cloning is done using Git, because you do forking on your GitHub account, but when you want to clone, you're moving to your local machine, so you do that using Git. So the next thing we want to do is to clone that repository. Remember, we want to contribute to the BUD Git tutorial. We're assuming this is an open source software. I want to contribute to it. So the next thing we are going to do is we're going to copy this. We're going to copy that link once again. Well, we're going to go to our terminal, and we are inside. We're just going to say git git clone, and we're going to specify the repository we are cloning. That's this. And once we click on enter, we'll see cloning into BUD Git tutorial. It creates a folder of exactly the same name, and it clones all the stuff inside there. So we've successfully cloned. So let's clear this and let's move into that folder, the BUD Git tutorial folder. So moving into let's list our folders and our files to ensure we have the correct files. So you can see we have the index.html file, the readme.md file, and the style.css file. So I want to assume it's the same here, right? Yeah, it's the same stuff. So we have exactly the same thing here. So having done that, now we want to make, and we're going to do this. We are going to move faster. In case you are confused, just come back to this session later to be available on the YouTube channel. So we are going to open this folder on our local machine. So let me just open the index.html file. Now we have the BUD Git tutorial. Let's open the index.html file and try to contribute to it. So we have mastering Git here. So this repository is what you're going to use to do your assignment. So all these stuffs now are steps you can follow towards doing your assignment. This is just like a clue on how you can actually go about the assignment. It's basically the same procedures as what we are actually doing here. In case you want to do the assignment, in case you are doing the assignment we gave, which is at the final page of the slide. So let's just do a p tag and do a lorem tag. So we just did a little thing here, and we've just, let's assume this is the contribution we wanted to make to this particular open source software. So we just made a contribution. We added a lorem ipsum bland text. So now let's go over. If you check git status, you can see that there's only one modified file that needs to be added to our staging area and committed, and that's the index.html file. So git lets you know that, okay, this particular file has been modified, and as such you would need to add this to the staging area and commit it in order to stay up to date. So let's clear our terminal first. So the next thing we are going to do is we are going to say git add index.html, and once we've added, the next thing we are going to commit is git commit and we are going to say modified index.html. And once we've committed this file, we have contributed to this project. So the next thing we want to do now is all these changes we just made. Now we want to push it to our own fork of this project. We want to push it to our own fork of this project. Now the first step you need to take note of while pushing to the fork that you just made is that you want to change the okay we want to, first of all, just using the same process for pushing, we want to add the remote origin. We want to say git remote, add origin, and we want to add our fork. Our forked, okay, remote origin already exists. Sorry, that has already been added. I forgot we just forked it from GitHub straight. So it already exists. It already exists. So we can just run our push operation. So once we run our push operation, you see we've actually pushed to that repository. So going back to our GitHub repository and reloading our page, we should see that this branch is now one commit ahead of the original blank branch, that is BlockchainUNN master. So you can see that we actually made a new commit. That is, we modified index.html file, and we contributed to this repository. So we added a new change that was not in the old repository. Now the purpose of adding this new change is because we want to like contribute to the repository, right? We want these changes we've made to be added to the main repository. Now the difference between a fork and the main repository is that all the changes I made, if I check the build git tutorial and I go to the index.html file, you will not see the change I made. You will not see that lorem ipsum tag stuff. You won't see it here because I have not merged the changes I made yet. So to merge the changes I've made to this one, the first thing I need to do is go back to my profile. I'll go back to my fork. Okay, sorry, not this. So let me go back to my profile once again. My repository, the repository I created, I mean the fork I created. So the fork is this, right? So when I check the commit I just made, what I'm going to do now is open a pull request. Now, what is a pull request? If we go back to our slide, we'll see that to make changes made to a fork to the main repo, you would need to open a pull request to that main repo. So a pull request is like a request you are making to the main writers, like the main authors of the repository. You're making a request to them and you're telling them, okay, I want you to add these changes I've made to the your current repository. That's what a pull request is. So if we come, okay, sorry about this. So let's go back to what pull requests are again. So a pull request is a way to alert a repository owners that you want to make some changes to their codes. So it allows them to review the code and make sure it looks good before putting your changes on the primary branch. So this action is carried out from your GitHub account. So that's what we want to do. We want to open a pull request, and to do that, we're going to come here and we're going to click on create pull request, and we're going to the title of the pull request is modified index.html file. So let's click on create pull request. So once we create pull request, if you the authors of the blockchain UNN build the Git tutorial, going over can see that they have one pull request to this repository. So clicking on this, now remember I'm the main author. That's why I have the right, the privilege to actually do this. If I was not the main author, you would have another person doing this. So let's open the pull request that was just made. Once you open the pull request, you should see the changes, the you can see the details of the pull request. And if the pull request is aligns with what is needed to actually like improve our current working repository, you just need to click on merge pull request and confirm merge. So once I confirm merge, it will say pull request closed, and you notice that the new changes I made has automatically been merged. So if you come here, you can now see the lorem ipsum stuff. So that's just basically how you contribute to open source softwares. That's how we contribute to open source softwares. So lastly, the last thing we're supposed to look at is README, but we won't be going onto that as our time. We have 2 minutes to the end of this session. Could actually go to the slide and read up this on on free code camp. You could actually read up this free code camp blog on how you can write a readme, and you could actually also take a look at the readme I did earlier on Mixup. You could check the Mixup repository and probably just clone the readme and play around with it. So basically, that should bring us to the end of this session on Git and GitHub. So lastly, we have a little assignment for you. And basically, the assignment is just I've just done literally everything on the assignment. I've done everything on the assignment, but we also expect that you actually attempt the assignment, ensure to attempt the assignment, and as you do so, you would actually improve your knowledge a lot on the basic Git and GitHub commands. So for those who stayed with us till the end of this session, I'm really grateful. You guys are the main G's. I'm really grateful to you guys for staying to the end. Yeah, it's not easy. We've been doing this for the past, I think, an hour 30 minutes or so. Is it an hour 30? So 2 hours 30 minutes. We've been on this for 2 hours 30 minutes. So it's not easy. Thank you guys for actually staying till this point. So if you have any questions, you could just ask on the group chat after this. Go over this session again, so you could actually get a better understanding of everything we've discussed. watch this again, go over it. They say repetition is meant for emphasis. And with time, you become a pro at using Git and you start contributing to open source. So I want to thank you guys once again. I want to also thank my co-host Emanuela. Thank you so much. Just appreciate us on the group chat. Appreciate BlockchainUNN, and I think that'll
Yeah.
be all for tonight. Okay, Emanuela, you have something to
Yeah.
say?
Yeah, Darlington, thank you very, very much. Thank you so much for this session, for taking out your time to actually do a lot. This is not, it's not like a tutorial you can find on just any place. So this is actually really nice of you. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for showing up tonight. And Darlington has basically said everything. So just to reiterate, please ensure to do the assignment. Like he said, he has basically done everything on this session. And yeah, it's actually going to be on the YouTube channel always, so you can always come back to look at it. If you have any confusion, always come back to look at it. And yeah, it will be very helpful. Also remember that the group chat is very active, it remains active. So if you also have a question, feel free to ask on the group chat. And yeah, you will get help immediately. But ensure to do the assignments. Remember, it's for your own good. You're not doing it for anybody. You're actually doing it to get um better at being a developer. And basically for uh the betterment of yourself. So yeah, thank you very much, Darlington. Thank you everyone for showing up. Yara Fel, thank you for thanking our hosts. Thank you for thanking us. And it's been a very good one tonight. So I think this is where we'll end it. And we'll see you at the we'll see you in the group chats definitely. So but before you go, please, if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel already, please do that now before you leave. Subscribe, follow us on GitHub, like Darlington has said earlier. Follow us, blockchain UNN on GitHub. Follow Darlington on GitHub, Darlington02. Follow our lead Kevin at Gina Kev on GitHub. And yeah, ensure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more sessions like this, so that you can always get it easily. So yeah, thank you very much everyone for showing up again. And I think this is where we say good night. Darlington, please, I think you have some final words, so we can just end.
No, no, you've actually said every stuff.
All right.
They've really,
All right.
it's really been a session. Yeah, thank you so much, Emanuela. I really
Thanks
appreciate.
everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you,
Okay, now, yeah, good
so
night.
much. All right, good night everyone.